Welcome to I think this is my 16th live stream. Today I'll be doing some Kubernetes, working towards some Kubernetes stuff. I'm going to wait a few minutes, let everybody join who maybe isn't here yet. But while we're waiting for that, why don't I just talk a little bit about some housekeeping stuff. This will probably be a multiple part series because I don't think I'm going to deploy an app to Kubernetes in 2 hours. Even though I've done it before. In fact, I've done it with this very app before several years ago, and I accidentally deleted it from Kubernetes. So that website went down a long time ago. It's not an important website, or I probably would have fixed it a year or two ago whenever it broke. But I thought, what the heck? It's a good opportunity to get the app working again, experiment with some Kubernetes, and do it publicly where anybody can watch me make silly mistakes. So I do expect to be making mistakes today. Wait just a second to check everything before we jump in. Well, at least I have one person in chat who's going to be watching me make mistakes. Oh, there's two. Great. Several people. Wonderful. We're making all sorts of silly mistakes today. All right. So let me pull up my screen. Have someone from Morocco. Welcome. Desktop. I'm going to put this a little bit easier to read. We'll do it like this. I want to put my head in the corner too, so you can see the confused look on my face when I make mistakes. First, a quick summary of what this app is or does. It's a kind of a silly app. Back when I used to be studying languages, I basically speak two languages now, but I used to speak some Portuguese also. So now I speak English and Spanish. I was making my own flashcards to practice languages, and one of the concepts I was studying was something called a minimal pair, which is two words that are the same except for one sound. And this is really useful when you're studying a language to practice pronunciation. So a simple example would be the words sheep and ship in English. Those are considered a minimal pair because the sounds are the same except for the vowel sound in the middle, the E or the I. So I wanted a website, well, I wanted a list of minimal pairs in my target languages, in Spanish, in French, whatever language I was trying to learn. You could go find some of these, but it's kind of hard to do that if you don't know the language already. So I made a website called minimalpairs.net, and it had several languages. I think it was English, Spanish, maybe Portuguese, French, and I think Dutch. We'll probably we'll find out today whether I had all those on there. And I basically found a list of the top 5,000 words or whatever for each language, ran them through eSpeak, which transcribes them into their IPA, International Phonetic Alphabet transcriptions, and then it would just do like a regular expression or whatever comparison and see if only one thing was different. And then it would compile that into a big list and put it on a website so other language learners could find that. That's the app I'm working on today. It's a very simple app in terms of like web, because it's just a really, really simple web app. Now, the code that generates these lists is a little bit more complex, and that's in the same code base, but that's not part of the app that runs in Kubernetes that's used to build the app. So we'll see some of that probably. And it's using SQLite right now. I might, at some point, switch it to Postgres or MySQL, not because it's useful for this app, but because it might be a good demonstration for how to get one of those working in Kubernetes. So that'll be later if we get there. For now, it's basically a stateless app that just serves static websites for the most part. But it seems like a good, simple toy project to get running in Kubernetes, so that's what I'll be doing today. Let me find the project. I think I already have it checked out. Looks like I do. All right. Wow, this is old. It has gopkg.lock. That's for an old dependency management system. Make sure I'm on master. I am. Oh, I have a go.mod. So it looks like I started to add a go.mod at some point in the past. All right, I'm going to remove that right now. And we're going to start. So let me pull up the project. I think it's on GitLab. I think it's a private project on GitLab, so you won't be able to browse this. Maybe I'll make it public. I don't know. I mean, it's not that I mind you seeing the code, obviously, or I wouldn't be doing this today. No. Repairs.net. One. Here we go. 3 years ago was the last time I touched it. So I used to have this integrated with Kubernetes, and that's broken. We'll be fixing that. All right. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get this project working with a modern version of Go. I don't actually know which version I was using in the past, but I'm sure I can find evidence of that. Let's open this up in my editor to get started. Let's open GitLab CI. That'll tell us which version of Go this was built with in the past. 1.10. Nice. That's some ancient Go. You can see I was running 2 production replicas, not because I needed it, but because it was this was sort of my my test bed for Kubernetes at the time. It's been a while since I've used Kubernetes or set it up from scratch, so this will be a fun project. All right, so the first thing I want to do is I want to make this work with a new version of Go. So let's update this to use Go 1.21. Oh, I'm using Go Meta Linter. Oh my gosh, that's old. That's been deprecated for years. Okay. Yeah, I don't even want to try to run that again. I do want Go test race. That's good. I don't know what this charts thing does. I'll worry about that later. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's do one thing at a time. I'm going to update this to Go 1.21. Create a branch called Go 121. And let's just update that. I know it's going to break, but let's see how it breaks. I don't know exactly how it'll break. At minimum, I expect it to fail with Go Meta Linter, but maybe that'll still work. We'll find out. Let me see if I had Go 1.10 referenced anywhere else. Doesn't look like it. Also using Kubernetes version 1.8, which is really old. I don't know what the newest version is. I know that Helm was on version 3, so this is all really old. Let's see what happens. Right, should be able to create a pull request. I had a couple merges open here even from thousands of years ago. Change the background color and use a new version of eSpeak. 5 years ago. My goodness. All right. No, I don't want to try that for free. I just want to create a merge request. It already failed. The pipeline already failed, and it hasn't even started yet. Is it using an old version of the pipeline config? Invalid YAML. That's amazing. I love that. This is hilarious. Okay, why is this invalid YAML? I expected to see a like config editor or validator thing here. I've never seen that before. Why am I not seeing it here? Maybe here? No. If anybody is more familiar with GitLab than I am, feel free to pipe in. I mean, I used to use GitLab a lot more frequently than I do these days. I'm sure that there was a way to validate this fast. This is something I just saw. Maybe I can do it here. Okay. Let's see if I can I validate. Here we go. Validate pipeline. Need to complain about anything. Did I break it with my change? Surely not. That should not have broken it. Okay. Pipeline syntax is correct, but then why is it complaining? I wasn't expecting to be doing this level of debugging today, but okay. Good pipeline. Insufficient permissions for the dast configuration keyword. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, I don't know what this dast is. I mean, I know what dast stands for. I don't remember this ever being in here. Let's just comment that out. But maybe that's an old feature of GitLab that's not used anymore. I don't know. Let's see if that makes anything happier. It looks like it's at least trying to run a test now. That's a bonus improvement. I fully expect this to fail. I just don't know how quickly it'll fail. All right. It does not contain main module. Okay, yeah, because I haven't configured the go.mod. So that's expectable. Let's do that. What's the import path? Because we need to know that for the go mod. The long import path. I don't want HTTPS in there. GitLab.com/flashback-srs. Flashback-srs is the name I was using for the flashcard stuff I was doing. And the minimalpairs.net/minimalpairs. Okay. Long import path. I probably would do that differently today, but just trying to get it to work today. Don't want to do a lot of refactoring. Okay. Go mod. Oh, cool. It copied the requirements from go pktl-awk. Didn't know that was a thing, but that's cool. Run go mod tidy. Downloading some dependencies. Oh, we got a failure. Okay, it's trying to fetch. Oh, this is interesting. So it's trying to its dependencies in this repo. So I need to use this import path apparently, even though it doesn't quite match what GitLab is using. I am not streaming on Twitch. No, I've not done that before. So I'm going to reset this and do it again with a different mod path. Mod init. Let's try it like this. Go mod tidy. There, that's a little more like it. Okay. Mod go.sum. I'm curious how many dependencies I have here. Quite a few. Several of my own. These are some old experimental packages I did. An old version of Qi. I know Qi's on version 5 now. The multi-error is obsoleted by Go 1.20. There's a lot of room for improvement. There's a much newer version of this. Version 9.1, I think, is out, and it's been frozen for about 3 years. So this is embarrassingly outdated, but that's all right. All right, let's commit that. And go.mod. And go.sum. Now I'm going to remove the Go PKG stuff. If any of you have been using Go for 5 years or longer, you probably remember these files, gopkg.lock and gopkg.toml and so on. Basically, it was an unofficial way to do Go versioning or Go dependency management before Go modules were supported. In fact, even before Go vendoring was supported, which was added in 1. I don't even remember which version vendoring was added in. It's been a long time though. Modules were added in Go 1.11 as an experimental feature. Anyway, let's take care of that. Let's see if we get any farther this time around. Yeah, someone commented that I'm talking about people using Go for many years. It's definitely not this particular person on the chat. I expect a minority of people on the chat or anywhere in the world have been using Go this long compared to the number of people using Go. Pardon me. And it's kind of expected. I mean, was it Bob Martin who made an observation in a talk several years ago that most developers in the world have less than 5 years experience? And that's pretty much always true. At least it has been since the beginning of computers, and it probably will be for several more years. Basically, more people are joining the workforce or learning computers every year than the year before. Yeah, I think I used Glide even more than GoPKG. I don't obviously not on this project, but I've used both of those as well. All right, we have another failure. Let's see what's going on here. Inconsistent vendoring. Okay. I think I don't want any vendoring, but I have some here. Okay. I think I'm just going to delete the vendor directory. Let's try that. So essentially what that error is telling me is that I had vendored a version of at least one thing. It looks like several things. It was a different version than was specified in the go.mod file. So you can use vendoring and modules together. I'm not going to on this project. There are times that make sense. I'm not going to right now. So I'm just going to delete the vendoring directory, or I have deleted it, and hopefully that will resolve this particular problem. Yeah, it's always funny when you look for Go development jobs in particular, although it's true in other languages too. People want a certain number of years of experience, yet it's really hard to find people with that level of experience sometimes. And that is particularly true with Go. Go is still, in some ways, an up and coming language in the sense that it's still growing very fast. Market share is growing. I don't think it's growing as fast as it was a few years ago, but market share is still growing for Go as many companies are switching from various languages to Go, from PHP or from Ruby or Java or whatever. So that will continue to happen for a while probably. Will I be explaining Kubernetes architecture? Probably a little bit. Yeah, I mean, as I go through the configuration, I'll be explaining what I'm doing. So we're going to talk about architecture as that happens. Yes, yes. All right, let's see if this works. Hopefully, fingers crossed. It's downloading modules correctly this time. That seems like an improvement. Go metal enter failed. Not surprising. What is surprising is that the pipeline didn't fail when that failed. That's probably a mistake. It looks like it downloaded it successfully. I'm not going to try to debug that though because Go metal enter is so completely outdated. It's ridiculous. Instead, I'm going to replace it with Golang CI lint. But I wanted to see that everything else is working first, and it looks like it is. Okay. So that hopefully will be the last thing I need to change to get the project working, but we'll see. So I want to get rid of this metal linter nonsense and replace it with Golang CI lint. So I have another project that I run Golang CI lint on in GitLab, and I'm just going to copy the config from that. Oops, that's the wrong file. So I'm just going to copy this over to here. And now I'm doing this in a different stage. I don't know if that's the deal. What did I call it? No, it's I have a test and a pre-test. Let's call this pre-test. It seems like it should be part of the same thing. I'm going to delete this. I don't need compat 1.17. So this particular, let me explain what this does. This tells it to download Golang CI lint. There's a newer version. I think 155.2 is out now. This installs interdependencies because you need the dependencies there for CI lint to do its thing. This runs Golang CI lint, and then this checks that my go.mod file and go.sum files are up to date. This checks that Go generated up to date. I don't have any Go generated code. Well, I don't know if it's true. I might have Go generated code, so that's a good idea. Combine these two. So this runs Go generate, and if there are differences, it fails, so that I'm sure that I keep the code up to date. So that's what that job should do. Let's commit that. Whoops. Wrong directory. Let's try this again. Now, one thing I haven't done is added a Golang CI lint config file, so this will just use the defaults, which is good enough for today. It's probably going to fail, because there's probably some lint in here that is accumulated. Some rules have been updated in the last 5 years that aren't adhered to. So we'll address that when we get to it. If it's simple enough, I'll fix it. If it's not so simple, I'll add a config file that tells it to ignore old lint. So now we have two jobs running. Linter and test can run in parallel now. Am I using GitLab runner or my own runner? That's a good question. I'm not sure. I know I have my own runners configured. I don't know if they're configured on this project, so let's find out. It looks like I'm using my own runner. So I have it's like something like $2, €2 or something per month VM from hetzner.de, where I run my own runner, and I do a couple other simple things. But that way I have essentially unlimited minutes for $2 or $3 a month. Much cheaper than I can buy extra minutes from GitLab. So might want to do one of those git diff blah. Yeah, I actually do that for go mod tidy. Find the right window here. So I'm doing the same thing right here. Yeah, go mod tidy and then git diff exit code. So if go mod tidy differs, then it also exits. So that means if I add a dependency or something and I don't clean up my go.sum, then it will complain. How are we doing here? Linter failed. Not surprisingly, but the test passed. Let's see how much the linter failed. Oh, it failed. Let me run it locally here. See, we have some deprecated use of io/ioutil. Yeah, there's a bunch of failures here. So I'm not going to try to clean up all this lint on the live stream today. I've done that on a previous live stream on a different project. So if you really want to see me delint something, I think it was the first or second live stream I did. You can find it on YouTube. But I'm going to configure this to ignore old lint so that only as I make changes does it need to be updated. So I'm going to copy my Golang CI lint config from a previous project. and then edit it. This isn't the most extensive configuration, and I don't need all of this. I don't need that. Maybe I want that. Actually, I probably do want that. So GCI enforces certain groupings of import statements, and here I can just find the standard library as the first group. The third group is anything that matches this import path, and then the middle group, the default, is everything else. So I'm going to have three groups of my import statements. This is an exception to the error check linter that complains if I don't check an error, and I don't want it to complain when I have a deferred close. So that's what this is exceptions for. Now there's only one other thing I need to add, and that is I have to look up what it's called. Actually, I can find another project. Give me 1 second, another window. Project for a client, so I'm not going to share it on the screen, but I can look it up quickly this way. The option is called new from rev. So I'm going to add that. I'm going to add an option called new from rev, and then I can put in a git SHA, and it will only complain about lint from that commit forward. So let me pick a recent commit, like probably the one for master. So master commit right there. Put that here. So now if I run golang clint, it shouldn't complain unless I add new lint, which is handy when you're adding a linter to a legacy project. You don't necessarily want to clean up all your old lint before you can make progress. So it's no longer complaining, although it does complain that this particular linter is deprecated. So let me delete that. It's called dead code. Here it is. All right. Now it shouldn't complain about that. Good. Whoops. All right, now I expect the linter to pass and the test to pass, and we're going to get some failure somewhere else along the line, like in the review, because this is trying to push it into Kubernetes. So I'll have to disable that, at least temporarily, and then over the course of this series, we'll be re-enabling those things as they start working again. Pull this up so we can watch it take place. While this is happening, I'm curious if I have any go generate happening here. It looks like I... No, actually, I don't know. I don't think so. I probably could. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that little go generate check in my linter, because I might at some point configure this to do the list generation on build. But for now, I don't see any go generate directives in the source code, so I don't think it's being used right now, but it might be in the future. Okay, so let's see how that is running. Should take a few seconds. Meanwhile, let's see if the tests are still going. They are. It's a race. Will the linter finish first or the tests? See you later. Thanks for stopping by. Oh, something failed. Oh, the timeout failed. That's a little bit surprising that the timeout it timed out. It was not a big project. The test passed, but let's fix it. We'll add a bigger timeout here. This actually called run, and timeout equals, I don't know, 900 seconds? 50 minutes? That should be more than enough. I think the default is 2 minutes or something like that. And I suppose on a on a small runner, it could take longer than that if it doesn't have enough memory or something. So even though it only took a few seconds on my local machine, it obviously took longer here. Here we go again. I don't think this is my own runner. I think this is running. I'm sure I'm not running a beta version of the runner. So just because I have my own runner configured doesn't appear to indicate that it always uses my own runner. It can also use some of the shared runners. But if I run out of minutes on the shared runners, then I believe it would fall back to using my own runner. All right, here it goes. This is the worst part of TV when you're waiting for something to happen. Live TV, I should say. If this was my my regular channel, I would of course edit this part out, or put a little montage of Rocky doing his workout in the streets or something like that to make it seem more interesting. What? Command not found. Line 321. I'm quite confused by this. What's the spec of the self-hosted router? Good question. I'll check that in a minute. Next time we're waiting, I'll go check that. That'll be a good thing to do. Meanwhile, I want to figure out what it thinks. Unexpected command. Go generate. Oh. Go generate failed for some reason. Oh, I see that. Minus sign is what caused the failure. Okay, let's fix that. Well, the linter passed, so that's good news. All right, so we're going to wait again. That gives me a chance to go look at the spec on my self-hosted runner. Log in here and have a look. Internal server error. That's not cool. Looks like I might not get to check that right now. Please let us know what you were doing. I was logging in. That's all I was doing. Now it's just waiting. And we'll see if it lets me in or not. If it doesn't, maybe I can go find an old invoice that might have some specs on it. I've always been a happy customer of petcenter.de, even though I only give them like $3 a month. I've never seen this particular problem. Not that I log in frequently to them, of course. I log in about once every 3 or 4 months when I need to check something or update my payment information or something like that. Yeah, it looks like their website's down or their service is down for the moment. So let me check my email and see if I can find an invoice that mentions the new spec. Hey, job succeeded. That's good news. Looking for an old invoice. All right, here's one. I don't know if it has the details I want though. No, the invoice just has a. Oh wait, hang on. There's a PDF. I didn't like that. Okay, here we go. Well, it doesn't give me much details here. I'm paying €4.90 per month. I don't have this. I don't have the specs here. I'm sorry. We'll try this again here in a few minutes. Maybe they're fixing it. Meanwhile, let's get back to what's going on here. Yeah, it was definitely running on a GitLab hosted runner. Definitely. All right, we have a build failure. Something's not. Oh, it's trying to install some Debian dependencies. Okay. Yeah, it's not surprising that that's broken. Build. Which job was that failed? Still trying to pull Golang 1.10? Why is that happening? Confused by that. Alright, what was this job? It's called build. Okay, yeah. Build. Where is that happening? Here we go. Don't know what this stage is doing here. I'm running Docker and Docker. Oh, I see. I have two scripts. One called setup Docker, one called build. So these are failing. Where are those defined? Okay, they're defined here. So setup Docker is. Okay, which part is failing? It looks like I get to debug some bash. I don't know if I want to do that today. I don't want to just disable some stuff that's broken. I want to figure out what is broken so I know what part to disable. Setup Docker. Okay, setup Docker worked. It's the build part that failed. Function build. Logging into GitLab container registry. All right. So that's. And then it's trying to set up Helm stuff. I don't care about the vast majority of this right now. Decide if I want to just delete it. So you see this thing here. It's called Auto DevOps. This is GitLab has a feature, or at least they used to have a feature called Auto DevOps, which I was using, but I wanted to modify it. So I copied their logic and customized it. And that's what you see here is my customization of a GitLab feature. And I think I don't want to do that. I'm gonna delete this and let and we'll just we'll start from scratch basically because I don't want to try to resurrect this old 5-year-old thing that probably won't work anyway. So I'm gonna do this a simpler way. So instead of build here, well, I still want to build. I just don't necessarily want to do it this way. I have to think about how I want to do this. If we look at this order of things, we can see what it does is it tries to build a Docker image of the app, and then it deploys it to a review environment, runs the performance checks apparently, and then if I merge it, then it or close the PR, the merge request, then it deletes that review environment. So that review environment, the step after build actually depends on Kubernetes. We're obviously not there yet, so I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to just comment this out for now. I don't care about performance right now, or SAST, or review, or stop review. Don't care about production. That's what happens after deployment. All right, so I commented out all the bits that I don't care about right now, and we'll eventually resurrect these or replace them. Why don't I comment out this whole auto DevOps thing too? I'll keep it in comments for now. easy to reference that way. So what we should have now is just one job left, or one stage left that does the linter and the testing. And if those pass, then I should be able to merge. Let's see if that's accurate. Or did I break something? Testing pipeline. Why does that take so long? There we go. All right, linter and test. So we're in a good spot. Just want to make sure I can build this thing. Build modifier. It should build. Go has this backward compatibility promise, and it looks like it does. I don't know if it runs. Yeah, it does. It gives an error, but it runs. All right. Let's try this head center thing again while we're at it. Still not working. Well, if you really care about my specs on the head center, send me an email or a message on LinkedIn or whatever, and when it's working again, I'll look it up and let you know the details. All right. I think we're almost there. We get to work on. Okay, the linter passed. Test passed. Good. Let's merge this thing. All right. Now the next thing I want to do is make this thing work in Docker. I have a Docker file. I don't know if it still works. Have a look at it. I bet it still uses the wrong version of Go. Yeah, 1.10. Go to the maintainer. It's been deprecated. We set an environment variable. Okay. We install a dependency. This is designed for Go path mode, which shouldn't be necessary, but it might work. Let's see. Docker build dot. Let's see what happens here. Yeah, I see a comment here that you're interested in running your own GitLab runner because you're hitting limits. Same thing for me. It's exactly the same reason I set up my own runner. And I've had that runner running for several years. I've updated the version of the runner once or twice. It's pretty low maintenance. In fact, it's probably too low maintenance. It's easy to forget about it and potentially have an OS with vulnerabilities, whatever. So if you do that, make sure you keep it up to date. You don't want some Bitcoin miner hacking your OS or something and eating all your CPU cycles or using you to create a DOS attack against Google or something like that. But it is really easy. I mean, I think the first time I set it up, I spent an hour or whatever installing dependencies and configuring it. It's pretty straightforward. Probably easier now. I think that the instructions from GitLab are even simpler than they used to be. Should be getting close here. 2 remaining. 1 remaining. Some bright spots behind me on my green screen. The sun's shining through the window. You see these bright, bright white spots behind me. All right, done downloading. Now we're installing dependencies. It's like a bunch of really ancient dependencies, but hey, don't worry about that. It's a different day. All right. Now let's see if it works. We have a Docker image. Image name. All right. So it's failing because the base URI and SendGrid API key are not configured, which seems to make sense. What's the next step? I guess the next step is to commit this change. Now what I don't know is if I still have a valid SendGrid API key. I'm sure I have one in my configuration. I just don't know if it's still valid. You know, after 5 years, I would kind of expect them to have disabled it. But we'll see. But first, let's merge this Docker configuration, set to auto merge. While this is happening, let me think about the next step. I suppose it would be nice to have it running locally just to prove that it works. Let me try doing that here. I don't remember all the arguments. Let me look that up. Have to add a minus n for something. I don't remember. Yeah, minus n. Okay. Let's see how that works. One example. Okay, and then so I want to do run this to get the output again. Okay. Then minus n. Minimal pairs base URI equals, let's call it localhost. I'm just going to put in a silly value because I don't know what the API key is right now. I'm supposed to see if it starts. What? Oh, I forgot to put n again, I think. Must set HTTPS or HTTP. Must set HTTPS or HTTPS. Awesome. I don't know how to do that, so the error message isn't very useful. Let's change this error message to HTTP bind or HTTPS bind. That's what it looked like. It should be based on what I saw up here. Yep. Okay. My formatter is reformatting some things. I don't want to commit all that right now. This is the only thing I want to commit. Rebuild that image. Should be faster this time since everything should be cached. Looks like this passed, but I have a new. No, it's already been merged as well. It was auto merged. I don't know why this takes quite so long. Oh, it's compiling some C code. That's probably why it takes a while. It has a C Go dependency. But anyway, it's done now. Find my old commands. I don't have to retype everything. And then I need to set in HTTP bind equals, let's say, port 9000. And then I also want to make this localhost say port 9000 so I can actually talk to the thing. I thought I just did. I set HTTP bind. Okay. Is the logic broken there? Or at least not meeting my expectations? HTTP address. Where's that coming from? What does conf get string do exactly? Ew, I can't believe I'm using this cast library. I hate that thing. Apparently I didn't at one time. Oh, I'm not using it. There's Viper using it. Okay. Anyway, I don't like Viper either, but that's a different story. Why is it? What is it even doing? I'm so confused. It really looks to me like it should be using HTTP bind, which I'm setting. But it's failing. I'll try running it locally and see if I can make that work a bit easier. I don't know what that root directory is supposed to point to, so I'm checking here. I guess just the top level of this thing. Okay. So these other things. Set this to asdiff. HTTP bind equals 9000. Let's try HTTP bind. Alright, just debug this thing. Let's do it this way to start with. They're both blank apparently because I just got a blank line output. But I don't know why. Where's this conf thing coming from? Oh, there's a silly prefix. There we go. All right. So, it's pretty annoying, honestly. But let me update this to show that prefix. Now, for now, I'm going to just hard code it, even though it's not really very robust, because it's better than what I have now, which is just utterly confusing. I'm going to merge that into the previous command. Okay, so I got the app started locally. I'm going to make sure it starts within Docker now. And then we're going to start with Kubernetes. This is probably the wrong command, honestly. This is installing every executable under the root path, which is why it's taking a while, because it's installing the generator code that depends on C. But I'll fix that later. It still only takes 30 seconds, but that's longer than it needs to take for this demonstration. All right, let's try this one more time. And let's change the HTTP bind to minimal pairs HTTP bind. All right, let's see if I can talk to that thing. Oop. You need to tell Docker to expose that. Looks like my graceful shutdown isn't working, because when I hit Control-C it does nothing, and Docker can't kill it quickly. So I need to fix that too, but that's not related to Kubernetes per se. All right, what was the Docker syntax to expose a port? Docker run expose port. Minus expose, and then I think I can just do the. Can I put that before or after? Here, before. Expose 9000. I think that's the right. I think that'll work. TCP. Nope, that won't work. Also won't work. Invalid port format. Isn't that what I just copied? One two seven oh oh one colon 80:8080 slash TCP. 127.0.1 colon 9000 colon. What? Invalid port format. It looks like the same format to me. Let me just try the simpler version here. It looks like I can just do expose 9000. Alright, let's see if that works. No. Alright, what's wrong? This exposes port 80 of the container without publishing the port to the host system's interface. I don't understand why this isn't working. And now I have to wait for the port to stop again. Let's try that longer format again. One 27001:9000:9000. I feel like that should work. That's TCP. If anybody's more experienced with this aspect of Docker and has a clue, I'd love to hear that. Yeah, that's so. Yeah, if you do local port, container port, or if I just do a 9000, it should use the same port for both. I can also specify the local IP address, although that shouldn't matter in my case because I only have one that matters. Well, that might be the problem. I don't think so. I'm not sure what's wrong here. So this is the format I was trying here. Well, this is the format I was trying here with the local IP address, local port, container port, and then the protocol. Or didn't like that for some reason. Didn't think it was the right format. Okay, let's look at the current port bindings. Nothing. How is that possible? Oh, I know what's wrong. I think. I think the Docker file needs to specify the port that I want to expose as well. I don't think I'm doing that right now. Or maybe I am. I must be, but probably on a different port. No, it's not specified here either. Well, let's add it here. Let's do that. That'll simplify things a little bit. Docker file expose port. Yeah, so I want to do something like this. So let's, and then I can also put the environment variable here, so I don't have to specify that. Let's do that. End minimal pairs HTTP line equals 9000, and then expose 9000 HTTP. I think that should do what I want. Let's rebuild this thing. You have plans to cover Kubernetes client, Go, and other libraries? Probably not in this tutorial, no. I don't have any reason to talk to the Kubernetes API from Go for this simple app. Yeah, this is, I mean, for all practical purposes, this is just a really simple web app, and I just want to run it in Kubernetes. So I'll probably run 2 instances of it so that I have seamless rolling upgrades. If I can bring one down and bring up the other one, bring one down, bring up a new copy, then bring the old one down. So it'll never have the service down completely, even during upgrades. Let's see if this magically fixes it. Probably, but we'll find out. So I should be able to get rid of this environment variable now. Nah, didn't work. Let me try the command line here. Actually, you know what? I feel like this should be showing. Oh, okay, port 9000. Okay, it's showing that now. Was it before? It was showing it before as well. All right. I'm going to try running this locally again and make sure that that at least the service is working and accepting connections if I run it locally. Debug one layer at a time. What was the command I had here? Here's the one that worked. All right, listening on port 9000. I'm getting a 400 error. That's interesting, but it's something different than before. Why does it think it's HTTP? Oh, I do say HTTPS bind. That's why it's failing. Let's try changing that. There. That's what it's supposed to look like. By the way, a word of caution. If I were doing this today, I would not have my service listen for both HTTP and HTTPS, which is intended to run on Docker. I would only add HTTP support, and I would let the load balancer handle HTTPS. In fact, let me make sure I'm doing that here. HTTP, good. Expose 9000. This should do what I want. I do want to improve. I'm going to fix this right now since I'm here. I think in lists, I can do this. Git grep package main. How many main packages do I have here? I think I have 2. I have more than 2. So this go install dot slash dot 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 is installing all of these, each of these directories independently. So data has a main package, data Dutch, data English. Yeah, and I don't need that for this. All I need is the server. So I'm going to change this to go install slash server. That should make rebuilding the Docker image faster. Yeah, 20 seconds faster or so. 12 seconds instead of 30. So that's nice. But still not any closer to having this thing listening on the right port, apparently. Let me see. The question is whether the problem is with my Docker. It has to be because when I run the local server, it seems to work. It's just in the, so something's wrong with the way I'm configuring Docker. And this image. Finding HTTP for 9000 as we want. Yeah, I'm glad you're here to watch the series I'm doing on it while I sit here scratching my head figuring out why I can't get Simple Docker to work. I did promise mistakes. Let's try some Chat GPT. See if Chat GPT can bail me out of this. I thought that expose and minus P were synonymous based on what I was reading, but apparently they're not. I need minus P, not expose. I don't know what the difference is exactly between publishing and exposing. All right. Minus P. Still not working though. What's 9,000 colon 9,000? Okay, let's try it like that. There we go. Now it works. Awesome. Let me kill this one more time, and then I'm going to commit the changes that are pending in my Docker file. All right, let's get that thing merged. I want to just get rid of this stupid try for free thing. I don't care about this. All right. Question about logging and monitoring. So I might get to that. I could. I was thinking about setting up Sentry and maybe Prometheus and Grafana. Kind of depends on how long we want to do this, because I mean that's we're talking several weeks of doing this. When I do 2 hours per week, we're talking many weeks. But it sounds like fun. I mean, we might keep going down that route. So let's see. Let's see how interested everybody is. If it's a popular topic, then we'll keep going and get there. we have 45 minutes left for the day. I suppose the next step is to set up the Kubernetes cluster so that we can start trying to deploy there. So I don't think we're going to quite deploy yet today. I think we're going to run out of time. But let me head over to Google and get that process started. And we have a few different options on how to do this. I'm an advocate for infrastructure as code. I think it's a good way to do this stuff. The natural, I shouldn't say natural, but like the default option for infrastructure as code for Kubernetes is going to be Terraform. I'm not sure if I want to go into setting up Terraform for this. I think I'm going to go a simpler route for this simple project, and maybe we'll revisit it with Terraform later. I'm just going to create a bash script that I can use to create my Google GKE instance, and so that way it's reproducible. It's not as nearly as robust as using Terraform, but it's simpler. And for something like this, where I just need to issue like 3 or 4 commands to create my cluster, I think it's good enough. And we can always go back later if there's enough interest. We could go back and revisit this with Terraform. But setting up Terraform it's a fairly involved process to get started with that. So that's why I want to focus on Kubernetes and not on Terraform for this. Let's head over to Kubernetes engine. Now, if you're doing this at home, be aware you will be charged money to do this. So think about that. So I'm going to do this. I have a couple different projects. I'm going to start with JHall test because what I'd like to do is set up 2 Kubernetes clusters, one for testing and one for production. Now, I probably won't keep both running indefinitely because it's kind of expensive, but that's kind of best practice. If you're setting up Kubernetes, you want a test implementation or a test cluster that you can use for development work, for staging environments, for your review environments, which we hope to set up in this project, and then one for production. So I'm going to start with the test one, and we'll get that going first. And then once that's working, then we'll set up a production one that's kind of a copy of it. And that's where that bash script I just described is going to come in handy. I'm going to use the bash script to create the test one. I can delete it and start it over again as many times as I want, and then I can do the new one, the production one, using the same script is the intention. All right. What am I looking at here? It looks like a bunch of usage graphs for something that's not being used, which kind of makes sense, I guess. Let's see how this is going. I think that's already been merged. Oh, no, I didn't auto-merge it, did I? Now it's merged. Oh, there's a couple changes I didn't commit. We'll get rid of those. All right, so I think the first step is I need to install the latest version of the Google Cloud command line tool. I might have that installed, I'm not sure. But let's get started with that because I want to use that to control my Kubernetes cluster. So let's find Google Docs for install GKE cluster. kubectl I'll need to install also. Yeah, so we're going to basically go through these instructions. I don't know if it's these specific ones, but I think so. Make sure Google Kubernetes Engine API is enabled, and it is. We're looking at that already. Install kubectl. Let's do that. So first, install the kubectl component. But let's see if this works. I don't know if I have the tool installed or not, but let's see. You cannot perform this action because Google Cloud CLI Component Manager is disabled for this installation. All right, I'll install it with my operating system instead of Google Cloud. Probably is better anyway. Yeah, that's basically this here. version 1.28. I think this was last using version 1.8. A little bit old. kubectl and other Kubernetes clients require an authentication plugin. Okay. Before you begin, check whether the plugin is already installed. Let's do that. It looks like it is, I guess. If the output displays version information, skip this section. Happily. Interact with kubectl. Kubernetes uses a YAML file called kubeconfig. Yep. Pretty sure I have some old Kubernetes configuration. Yes, indeed, I do. Don't know when the last time I used this was. Well, skip that for now. Let's see what's next. View the current context for kubectl. When you create a cluster using let me zoom in a little bit. I'm having a hard time reading it. I can't read it well. I'm sure you can't if you're on a phone. Gcloud container clusters create auto my cluster. Okay, so I don't know what this create auto is. Well, let's just do it. I know I'm not going to stick with this, but we're learning, right? Let's see what this command does. I think it's going to create a cluster called my cluster. Permission denied. Oh, I'm using the wrong project. Okay. This is an old project that I actually deleted. This is the project that used to run this 5 years ago. I don't know why this is still configured for that, but I need to switch to... I don't remember how to do that. Log into project. I think this will let me select the project I want. It's still the wrong project. So I'm authenticated, but not to the right project. How do I choose the project I want? I just want to choose a project. I don't. Cloud select project. Cloud config. Okay. Okay, what was the project ID? I think it was jhall test. Is that right? Yeah. Your active project does not match the quota project in your local application default credentials file. This might result in unexpected quota issues. To update your application default credentials quota I don't even know what that means. What is a quota project? Use gcloud auth application default set quota project. Not appeared. Okay, I'm probably logged in as the wrong user then. Let me try that gcloud auth login thing and try my different Google account and see if that makes a difference. Okay, so that account has access. Now I think I can do this previous thing and it'll try to create a cluster on the right project. We will definitely be talking about ingress and subdomains because I have a registered domain that I want to map to the this application, minimalpairs.net. So yeah, we'll definitely be doing ingress and domain redirection. I expect we'll get to that part next week because we only have about a half hour left. It's not going to be enough to get everything configured, but come back next week at the same time, and hopefully we'll be getting to that part by then. All right, clusters being configured. We should be able to see something new happening here on this dashboard, I think. Well, this isn't actually where I wanted to be. Let me go over here to We should see Kubernetes. Yeah, Kubernetes engine. Here we go. So we should be able to see a cluster being created now. Yes, my cluster is being created in Europe West 2. Mode autopilot. I don't actually know what that means. I think that's new since I last played with this. So let's look it up. GKE, what is autopilot? In autopilot, GKE automatically manages cluster upgrades and maintenance for both the control plane and worker node. That sounds useful. I think I remember reading about that. But yeah, that's a new feature. Now, the interesting thing is I didn't tell it what size nodes I wanted or anything like that, which I definitely want to do. But let's see what the defaults are. Kubernetes version 1.27. Interested to see. I think the nodes is probably going to be here is what I want to see. But configuring, deploying. Already an upgrade available for this thing I just created 15 seconds ago. Yeah, I want to see my node pools, but I don't think those are available yet. We'll have to wait for that to come up. I don't know what size nodes I selected, and this is such a small app. I want to choose really, really small nodes. I also want to choose preemptible nodes for my test cluster because they're cheaper, and because they also give me a little bit of ability to sort of test that my app works well when nodes die. Now, this app doesn't get enough traffic for that to actually matter, but if you're doing a real app, that's one thing I like to do. I put on my test cluster, I use preemptible nodes. Basically, that means they last at most 24 hours, and they could be shut down with just a moment's notice at any time. You pay less for those because they're allocated to nodes that happen to have physical nodes that happen to have spare capacity at the moment. So they can run anywhere from like 10 minutes to 24 hours. But the reason I like to do that for my test nodes is because it gives me some assurance that my application is resilient to being constantly shut down. Of course, it's only true if you actually have logging and monitoring in place to tell you when things are happening. That's the only way you can actually be confident that that's true. But we'll get there. Waiting. This takes a while. We're on to health checks now. Still can't see my node clusters, node groups, or whatever they're called. I'm sure we will soon. Let me start a bash script. Oh, this is still running. Let me start a bash script where I can start putting my script to start my cluster. I'm just going to call it gke.sh for now. And I'll just put the command I just did, which was this. Obviously, this is not the command I'm going to want to keep because I want to specify my node types and all that stuff, but baby steps, right? And I'm going to eventually replace all of these with variables so that I can easily recreate my cluster as I need to. Let's check Hetzner again while we're waiting for this. See if they're up again. Yeah, it looks like it might have fixed the problem. All right, let's see what my see what kind of system I have here. Created over 5 years ago. It's got 20 gigs apparently of storage, but that's not probably what you care about. Here we go. 4 gigs of RAM and 2 vCPUs. Is that useful? And I think I let it run, I could actually log into it. I think I let it run 2 concurrent jobs simultaneously. Let me just log into it. I don't remember what it's called. A couple Intel Xeon processors, 2.3 gigahertz apparently. And I let it run 4 concurrent jobs, apparently. So there you go. There's my specs on my personal GitLab runner. Still going here. This is going to be a lot of what happens next week, I think, is waiting for Kubernetes to deploy. So maybe I'll get a joke book or something that I can read between between deployments while we're waiting for this to happen. Meanwhile, if you have any questions about Kubernetes or Docker or Go or my favorite flavor of ice cream or whatever, feel free to ask me in chat and maybe we'll talk about those things. Okay, let's see what we have here. The cluster is running. Number of nodes is blank. I don't know what that means. What does the command line thing say here? Okay, shows E2 small. At least we have an idea. And 3 nodes. 3 E2 small nodes. Okay, so we know something about it now. But I want to look at that here. I want to see what are my node clusters. I'm really curious why this is blank and why this shows 0 vCPUs. Cluster certificate? I don't want a certificate. I want to just look at the cluster detail. Maybe it has to wait a while for this to update. I'm not sure. Well, let's. Oh, I'll check back in a minute. Meanwhile, I'm going to see how to, finish through this documentation. Okay, we skipped that part, right? Here we go. This is where we were. Let's see what the context looks like. All right, so we're connected. Kubectl is connected. So this is only necessary if the cluster had already been created or was created on a different computer. But I think that just running the create cluster command already did this part for me. So now what I want to learn is how to do the create cluster command with my own parameters. So that's learn how to do this. Custom node type. Let's try that. All right, here's the full details. Plus container clusters create. I think create auto is a good idea. I think that's the autopilot thing we just read about. Yep, okay, so I do want that. And then I want to specify what type of node and preemptible thing. Maybe private nodes, I don't think that's what I want. Let's ask ChatGPT. Oh, they call it a machine type. That's probably why I didn't find it. So I guess I can't use the auto thing if I want to specify my own type, but that's okay. I don't need the auto thing then. I don't really need auto scaling for this app anyway, right? Let's do create. And let's call this cluster minimal pairs test. And then machine type. And num nodes. I'll put something here. I don't know what it is yet. Num nodes. For the test cluster, I mean, 3 is kind of the minimum you want. So I guess I'll do 3. Even though for the test cluster, I might be able to get by with using 1 or 2. And I list the available machine types. All right, let's do this. The zone was it Europe? West 2, I think. Nope. Was it East 2? I don't know what it was. Let me see what I have here. Europe, it is Europe West 2. So what's wrong here? Did I spell it wrong? No. Oh, maybe that's not zone? I thought maybe zone is Europe? No. Alright. Well, what's the zone then? Oh, it's even more specific. Oh, less specific. There we go. So I want something super small, like micro or small. Micro is probably too small. I don't think you can do much with a single gigabyte of RAM. Small is probably about the smallest I can go and actually use Kubernetes. Can I use preemptible nodes with GKE's autopilot? Okay, so I can't use autopilot with preemptible nodes, that's okay. I think I want E2 small to start here. 3 of those nodes, and I do want to do preemptible. How do I specify that? Looks like I just add preemptible. Okay, so I'm going to delete, 20 minutes left, I'm going to delete the cluster I just created and create this new one. with the script I just created. Let's delete cluster. Let's try it and see what happens here. And it fails. No enable IP alias. Well, it didn't fail, it just gave an error. It's not an error even, it's just a, I don't know what that is. Telling me about networking stuff that I don't think I care about. Telling me about some defaults. Okay, so now this is going to run. So we should have two clusters now, one being deleted and one being created. Yep. Interesting. Apparently, if I use autopilot, it isn't tied to a specific zone. I guess it can go anywhere in Europe West. I don't know. I might have to do some more reading about this autopilot thing and see if it actually makes sense for this. I think it would make sense a lot for a production workload, but I don't want to risk. I don't want to risk it creating bigger or more nodes than I need for a simple test project like this. I want to maintain tight control over the configuration of my cluster. So that's why I'm not doing that yet, but I'll do some research about it before our next live stream and see if it might make sense anyway. $67%. Not sure how accurate that is. So much fun. Who has a joke? Tell me something funny. Oh, I guess I can. I think I had a. Oh, I already merged that, didn't I? All right. Well, while that's happening, then I'll at least update the local copy. Maybe I could be fixing some of the bugs I discovered while waiting for this. Let's get rid of HTTPS support while this is running in the background. The only reason I would want HTTPS support is if I was going to be running this with outside of Docker, but I'm not going to be in this case. But you might on your app, but not in this app. So I'm going to get rid of HTTPS support. That'll simplify things a little bit. Get rid of the HTTPS bind. It's going to cause some errors because it's referenced somewhere. Yes. so much in this code that I would not do today. But I wrote this a long time ago. I've learned a lot since then. HTTP address. So I have this function called serve both. If I can, I don't know why I would do this, but I can specify HTTP bind and HTTPS bind. I guess the reason I would do that is so I can have HTTP redirect HTTPS. That's the job of a load balancer. So I don't need serve both. Just delete that entire function. And its reference right here. And I don't need serve HTTPS. Or its reference right here. And I've already returned an error if that's not set, so there we go. Oh, and we're no longer using this multi-error thing, so that's kind of cool. This is not formatted the way it likes. I don't know why this is commented out, but I don't want to worry about that right now. Use parameters, base URI. Oh, that's not used because it was only used for the redirection case, so that simplifies things. That means I don't need this. Okay. I thought maybe I could get rid of a config parameter too, but I can't. But anyway. Let's run go mod tidy to fix this error about multi-error not being a direct dependency. And then I need to reorder these imports because that GCI linter I mentioned early on expects a certain order. And I don't know why this is commented out. But I'll worry about that another day. It looks like I'm not exposing the Spanish minimal pairs, but I have English, Dutch, and French. Don't know why I made that choice. Maybe there was a technical reason. We'll go ahead and commit this reformat that happened automatically. All right. Oops, HTTPS support. Let's make sure the Docker build still works. Let's check on the status over here. Hey, it looks like that's done. We have 3 nodes with 6 vCPUs and 6 gigs of RAM. All right. All right, now we want to let me push this up and create that pull request. So now we're ready to try to deploy the app to Kubernetes. We need to set up an ingress and all that good stuff. We have 10 minutes left. I don't think I'm going to get anywhere meaningful in 10 minutes. So maybe, let me think if there's anything we can do in 10 minutes that would be useful without getting in the middle of something before we have to stop. Yeah, I don't think we're going to get anywhere with Kubernetes in 10 minutes. So maybe I'll spend the last 10 minutes on this code. I can make a little bit of progress there in 10 minutes, and then next week we'll be ready to hit the ground running with deploying to Kubernetes. So we have our cluster running. I'm probably going to delete this cluster, but I have to pay for it for the next week, and then I'll create it again right before next week's live stream, so that we can start with the deployment to Kubernetes of the app, and then start automating that process so we can get our review environments, get automatic deployments, and so on happening. So I think that's where we'll go next week. For now, let's see how this PR is going. I'll probably just spend the next 10 minutes cleaning up some of the nastiness in this old code. If you want to stick around to watch that, then of course you're welcome to. go ahead and delete this cluster. I don't want to pay for it for the next week when I'm not using it. But at least we have a script, a very simple script that creates a cluster that we want. Part of next week or maybe the week after, we'll be tweaking that script to have sort of a production and a test mode, this script here. So if I run in test mode, it does preemptible. If I run in production mode, it maybe uses larger nodes and it doesn't use preemptible and so on. But that'll be part of the following week or two. All right, that's done. Maybe next I'll update some dependencies. If any of these are exceptionally outdated more than others. Like I know that I know there's a new version of Qi. Let's see if that will upgrade nicely, for example. Why am I using a third-party library for graceful shutdown? I suspect that that's from before Go had support for that directly, but we'll worry about that when I get there. Let's start with this Qi thing. Let's change this to /v5. Tidy. Why am I getting version 4? I'll worry about that in a minute. So now we're going to have all these conflicts because they're depending on things that, on different versions. Up to 5 everywhere. And I don't know if I'm using any of the Qi API that might actually have breaking changes. You know, in other words, if I have to change the way I'm using it, or if I can just update the import paths. But we'll find out. Something is still referencing Qi version 3. Few formatting changes happen, yeah, that's alright. Alright, so there's 2 more references here, it looks like. Well, the third one there too that mentions it in a comment. I'm going to leave that comment as it is because it's referencing a specific version of that file. I'll just leave it like it is for now. There, now we're not using Qi version 3 anymore. Right, this should be quick. Doesn't look like any of the APIs broke. You know, none of the function signatures that I used changed between 3 and 5, which is nice, assuming that's actually accurate. auto merge. Meanwhile, why don't I work on IOUtil? That should be an easy thing to fix. You may recall that the linter was complaining that I'm using this IOUtil package that's been deprecated since Go 1.16. And so if we go into it, then we can see the alternative, which is os.read file in this case. Let me do it this way. IOUtil -d. This gives me a list of all the files that contain a reference of IOUtil, and then I can open them all up at once. Copy a read file. Reader. What's the alternative to that one? Deprecated use os.reader. Okay. Here we have read file, which is os.read file, if I recall. And here we have os.read file again. That should do it. A fair number of small formatting changes as well. Let's see if I got all of them. I did. Okay, let's see if this one's ready. Oh, it failed. The linter failed. Oh, I failed to set the imports properly, the key change. So one of the files I changed introduced a linter failure. Yep, looks like that. No, all of these are the same, should be the same group. Okay. Push that up, and then meanwhile, I will check the other pull request that I was about to create. I think. Try not push that. I don't know why it's not showing me the little automatic pop-up about the pull request, but whatever. Alright, so we have 2 open PRs. Both of them are running tests right now. And then hopefully I'll be able to merge both of those quickly. Just 1 minute left on my clock. So I think I'll just end the live stream here. Thank you for joining today. I hope this has been useful. I know it was a lot of preliminary work to get ready. Next week should be a little bit juicier in terms of Kubernetes. So I hope you'll join me next week as I deploy this app to Kubernetes and we start playing with ingresses and all that fun stuff. So hope to see you next week. Until then, boldly go.